We made a deal to tell this story, and we're telling this story.
They built a world we believed in, a story we cried over, a game that became a cultural monument, and then a show that lived up to the impossible hype. The Last of Us wasn't just another adaptation, it was a miracle, until it wasn't. Now, with Season 3 allegedly cancelled, the fandom is in full meltdown. No tweets, no official statement, just silence. A silence loud enough to confirm what fans have feared for months. HBO pulled the plug, and behind the scenes, rumors of regret, betrayal, and a studio that may have just destroyed one of the most iconic franchises of the decade. What happened wasn't just a bad season, it was a collapse, a slow-motion car crash that started with one casting choice and ended in scorched earth. And if the whispers are true, this wasn't just creative failure, it was sabotage from within. So, before we dive into the real madness, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. The real bombshells are just getting started.
I'm in a very unique position because it's my second go at this story. But I've just now lived in this world for so long, and I am just...
Neil Druckmann didn't want to say it out loud, but fans heard it anyway. When he hinted that The Last of Us Season 3 might not happen, it felt like confirmation. Not of scheduling conflicts, not of creative redirection, but of total collapse. Season 1 was gold. Critics called it the greatest video game adaptation in history. Fans obsessed over every frame. Joel and Ellie became household names, not just in gaming, but in culture. But Season 2? It wasn't just a misstep, it was a betrayal. And the blame? It's all falling on one name, Bella Ramsey.
Actually, people were critical of some choices that we've made in the show.
Yeah.
And they were saying like, oh, I like this better in the game, and this was more subtle in the game, whatever they said.
When Bella Ramsey was cast as Ellie, the internet split in two. Some said give her a chance. Others said it was a disaster waiting to happen. But no one expected this. A performance so divisive, it allegedly derailed the entire franchise. Ellie wasn't just a character. She was the emotional core. A broken, brilliant survivor whose pain was our pain. And Bella, she couldn't sell it. Fans tried to get behind her. HBO begged us to trust the process. But with every new episode, that trust shattered. It wasn't just about looks or age or voice. It was about presence. That haunted, battle-scarred soul Ellie carried with her. That thing that made her unforgettable, it wasn't there. And fans noticed. TikTok comparisons, Reddit essays, YouTube breakdowns, the internet screamed what HBO refused to admit. Bella Ramsey wasn't Ellie. The cracks didn't just appear in the acting, they split open everywhere. Season 2 felt like a different show. Gone was the tight, emotional pacing. Gone was the world building that made you feel trapped inside a post-apocalyptic masterpiece. Instead, we got timeline flips, erratic storytelling, and a cast that felt like strangers. Joel, gone too soon. Ellie, unrecognizable. Characters acted out of sync, like puppets for a message rather than real people surviving a cruel world. The soul of The Last of Us had vanished, and in its place, a show desperate to be edgy, but failing to connect. It was jarring, it was hollow, and most importantly, it was avoidable. Neil Druckmann created this world. He breathed life into Ellie, into Joel, into everything that made The Last of Us iconic. So when Season 2 started falling apart, fans expected him to fix it. Instead, he went quiet. According to insiders, Druckmann was furious. He allegedly pushed for rewrites, warned about Bella's inability to carry Ellie's arc, pleaded for depth, emotional realism, and creative control. But HBO had already locked in their decision, and their pride. Promo campaigns were launched, interviews were booked, changing course meant admitting failure. And so, they told Neil to trust the process. And that's when he started to pull away. No public outbursts, no Twitter threads, just silence. And that silence, it wasn't apathy, it was heartbreak. Then came the moment that confirmed everything. In an interview, Bella Ramsey casually mentioned Ellie would have a smaller role in Season 3. Fans froze. A smaller role? For Ellie? At first, it seemed like a narrative pivot. Maybe Season 3 would explore new characters, new arcs. But to longtime fans, it was the final red flag. You don't sideline your protagonist unless you're hiding something. And what they were hiding was failure. This wasn't a creative choice. It was damage control. A quiet plan to fade Bella out without admitting she didn't work. But fans aren't stupid. They saw it. They felt it. and they called it out. By the final episodes of season 2, the numbers told the story no one else would. Ratings plummeted. Comments turned brutal. Fan pages went silent. The number TLOU3 hype, dead on arrival. Merch stopped selling. Watch parties vanished. The fandom that once moved like a synchronized army now fractured. And HBO, they panicked. Executives who once boasted about the franchise were now scrambling for solutions that didn't exist. It wasn't just about bad press. It was about profit. The show was bleeding viewers, and season 3 was no longer a safe bet. It was a financial nightmare waiting to happen. But the final nail in the coffin wasn't Bella. It was Pedro. Rumors swirled that Pedro Pascal, the heart of season 1, had major issues with the direction of season 2. He allegedly clashed with showrunners, disagreed with Joel's fate, felt uneasy about the shift in tone and in leadership. And then he was gone. Quietly, without fanfare, without closure. The man who gave the show its gravity had walked away. And suddenly, the show was rudderless. Fans didn't just lose Joel, they lost the only actor holding the story together. And season 3? Without Pedro, without Druckmann, without audience trust, it was doomed. You didn't miss the announcement because there wasn't one. HBO didn't send out a tweet, no Instagram post, no headline press release to soften the blow. What we got instead was the most deafening silence this fandom has ever heard, and that silence said everything. Allegedly, Neil Druckmann didn't just sit back and watch the story fall apart, he pulled the plug himself. Not out of spite, not out of pride, but out of grief. Because what The Last of Us had become wasn't just creatively off track, it was unrecognizable. And continuing down that path would have been a betrayal of everything he built. Insiders claim Druckmann had two options: keep cashing checks and watch season 3 become a meme, or pull the emergency brake and try to salvage what was left of the legacy. Allegedly, he chose the latter. But here's the kicker: he didn't make it loud. He didn't call out HBO. He didn't throw Bella Ramsey under the bus. Instead, he let the machine slow to a quiet death. And that's how you know it's real. When the man who created the story walks away without a fight, that's not drama, that's mourning. Internally, the execs at HBO are in chaos. They gambled everything on season 2 and lost. The fans didn't just walk away, they turned hostile. The merch didn't just stop selling, it got returned. And now, instead of preparing Emmy campaigns, they're allegedly preparing PR containment strategies. Not for the show, but for the brand. Because if HBO admits this was a mistake, it's not just The Last of Us on the line, it's the trust of their entire audience. While the TV side of the franchise burned down, another fire was quietly raging. This one inside the original house that built it, Naughty Dog. And if the whispers are true, the tension inside that studio may end up being more explosive than anything HBO put on screen. Bruce Straley didn't walk away from The Last of Us lightly. He co-created it, bled for it, lived it. But somewhere along the way, his vision was pushed aside, and Druckmann became the face of the franchise. Now, with the show's second season widely seen as a betrayal of the original intent, Straley's inner circle is allegedly furious. Some say he's considering legal action, not for clout, not for a payout, but because of the character assassination that happened on screen. Fans know the Ellie from the game. They loved her, protected her, grew up with her. And when they watched the TV version crumble, it felt personal. As if someone took a childhood friend and rewrote her soul. And Bruce? He allegedly felt the same. The idea of a creative lawsuit between the co-creators of The Last of Us isn't just messy, it's historic. It would be the first time a TMSBW game creator went after a studio like HBO over a storyline. But given the magnitude of the fallout, nothing's off the table anymore. Imagine it. Two men who once built something legendary, now on opposite ends of a cultural war. One defending a TV version that collapsed, the other fighting to preserve a legacy that fans say was betrayed. This isn't just about actors and ratings anymore. It's a full-blown civil war over the soul of a story. In every scandal, there's always someone who ends up paying the highest price. And in this one, that person is Bella Ramsey. Not Neil Druckmann, not HBO, not even the writers. It's Bella, fronter, alone in the spotlight, and now buried beneath the blame. She didn't cast herself. She didn't write the script. She didn't change Ellie's arc. But because she was the face of season 2, the outrage landed on her shoulders. And the weight? It's unbearable. Social media hasn't been kind. TikTok edits compare her scenes to Ellie from the game, always to her disadvantage. YouTube critics dissect her expressions, Twitter threads question her range, Reddit calls it the worst miscast in modern TV. And every time her name trends, it's not because she won an award, it's because she's being blamed for ending The Last of Us. Hollywood insiders have started whispering the worst words an actor can hear: liability. They don't mean she's untalented. They don't mean she's unprofessional. They mean she carries the shadow of a collapse. And casting her now means risking a headline HBO doesn't want to see again. It's not fair, but it's real. Because the industry doesn't care who deserved the blame. It only cares who's wearing it. And unless Bella lands a career-defining role fast, she may be haunted by this for a long time. It's brutal. But that's the cost of being in the middle when a billion-dollar empire falls. This was supposed to be the one that got it right. When The Last of Us was first announced as a series, fans held their breath. They'd been burned before. Poor adaptations, lazy writing, studios that didn't get it. But this one had the creator at the helm. A massive budget, the perfect Joel, and a story already carved into the hearts of millions. But what we got wasn't an evolution, it was erosion. Ego over empathy, pride over pivoting, studio executives who refused to admit a casting mistake, and a production that doubled down when they should have hit pause. And in the middle of it all, fans who begged to be heard, who warned, who pleaded, who cried out as the soul of the story was stripped away. They weren't toxic, they were right. Now, the legacy lies in pieces, the cast is scattered, the creators are silent, and the audience? Remember, we didn't just lose a show, we lost the trust. The belief that studios cared about preserving what made a story special, that when given something sacred, they'd treat it with reverence. Instead, they milked it, exploited it, broke it. And in trying to modernize The Last of Us, they lost the very thing that made it timeless. So maybe there won't be a season 3. Maybe that's a good thing. Because some stories deserve to end before they're ruined further. And if there's any justice left in this industry, this collapse won't just be remembered as a loss, it'll be remembered as a lesson. A warning to every studio, every showrunner, every casting director out there. Don't mess with stories people love, unless you're ready to carry the weight when it all comes crashing down.